Hello and welcome back to the field office. Today I am looking at an item which is strictly speaking not a Bond related item, or at least not from cinematic Bond. Now, um, obviously you can see here is a clue to what I'm talking about. Now in January, around about my birthday, I went to Vista Village, which is an outlet shopping centre in Oxfordshire. It's quite a famous outlet, and there's a lot of Bond brands that are located there, including Oliver Brown, Baroni, Barber, Churches, some of the sportier brands like Adidas are. I think they were there. I'm not entirely sure if they're still there. But there are a lot of Bond brands that are located there, and it had been a number of years since I'd been there. And one of the things I did get there was an NPL jumper. It was a green V-neck jumper. But the other thing that I got while I was there was this trench coat. Now, this is a Burberry trench coat. It is, looking at the designation that's on the ticket, it is called a Brockham, which I hadn't heard of previously, and it's in a navy. Now, I would argue this is not navy, although when I bought it in the store, it looked navy-ish, but I would say it's more of a lighter colour blue than navy. However, I really do like the colour of it. And as you can see, it's got the Burberry check on the inside, and it's kind of got all the bits and pieces that you want from a trench coat. It's got the belt, it's got the adjustable sleeves, it's got the clasp around the collar so that you can do it up nice and tight. The collar is actually is stiff enough so you can stick it up in the cold. It's got the epaulets. So this is a really nice coat that I've had for the last nearly a year, and I think it goes well with a lot of my suits as an overcoat or casually just over something like I'm wearing today. So I really like this overcoat. I think it's a really good item to own, especially as a Bond, somebody who's interested in the sartorial elements of James Bond. Now, in the books, Fleming's Bond in The Man from the Golden Gun, he returns having had amnesia. He from the previous book, which was You Only Live Twice, and he travelled to Russia at the end of that book. And then from The Man with the Golden Gun, he comes into MI6 after everybody believes that he's died in the previous mission, and he's wearing his sort of traditional outfit that he would wear: a worsted navy suit, white shirt, black knitted tie, and a navy Burberry overcoat. I don't believe it specifies if it was a trench coat or not. But in my head, when I was reading the book, and it's been quite a long time since I've read that book, in my head it was a trench coat. Now, it could also be because I've seen in, and I might get this wrong, in Octopussy, Roger Moore's Bond actually has a trench coat that he takes off and puts onto the hat stand. That's in a more sort of traditional sort of honey, light beige colour. And when I went to Pete Brooker's License to Grill this year, one of his friends there actually worked for Burberry, and asked the question if Burberry has ever been in a Bond film, and that was the only sort of cinematic reference I can think of, but it wasn't. I don't think it was confirmed it was Burberry. I think you get a hint of the lining of the trench coat, and it could have been the Burberry check from back then in the 80s. but I can't swear that it was a Burberry trench coat. It could just be a trench coat from another brand. But it's one of those things where I think of this brand being a traditional sort of a London brand, a British brand, and I think it's something that maybe should be used. I mean, for the overcoats, it doesn't. I mean, I think definitely from the Brosnan era and the Craig era, the overcoats that Bond has worn have been still part of the brand that was used for the tailoring. And I don't see a problem with that, but I think something like an overcoat like this trench coat, being Burberry, I think could be a nice addition. Doesn't have to necessarily completely match with the brand that they go with tailoring. A couple of other things that come to mind with this is that, so I got this at Bicester Village, and the price of I paid for this was, so the coat was originally billed as 1,690, and the Bicester Village price was 495, and I paid 297. So it'd gone down considerably. But there's two things to talk about with this. One thing, and it's been a number of years since I've visited Bicester Village. One thing that I've been told since and kind of aware of is that some of the brands actually have items that are specifically made for the village, for Bicester Village. So they've never been in the main store and then work their way to the outlets. They've been designed specifically for the village, and it's kind of the same sort of ethos of the TK Maxx brands, where you pick up a Nike, Adidas item, and they've been deliberately made for TK Maxx, and there's like certain labeling codes that you can see on there, whether if it was originally made for the brand and then was discounted, or it was just made for TK Maxx as an item for them. So the possibility this coat never saw the light of day in a proper Burberry store. Over the last sort of 10-ish years, I've been going into that Burberry store to find a blue navy overcoat, or a trench coat, and they've never had them. Every time I visited, they never had them, and it's been about 3 or 4 years since I'd last gone in there, and I found this coat. I was really happy that I found that coat with the price, and then when I got to the till, the further reduction, which was brilliant. But I also know that from looking on their website, they used to have a navy coat, and then they discontinued the navy, so you could only get it in a black and their honey colour. They have in recent years they've brought back a blue, but not a navy. Probably more similar to this blue now that and I think they call that a cobalt blue. So that's one of the things. The other thing that I've heard about Burberry is that the quality of their coats now isn't as good as their coats from the past. So I've seen a couple of YouTubers or people on Instagram comment about the trench coat and actually say, instead of going for a Burberry, go for a Macintosh, go for other brands that do trench coats, because the quality of those coats are better than Burberry now, where it's just more, what you're doing is you're paying for the name and the logo and the check lining rather than the quality of the coats. So the quality of their coats has reduced subsequently compared to other brands. Now, I can't comment one way or the other. This is the only Burberry item I have ever owned. I like this coat. I think that it feels good. It feels quality. But I've only paid less than £300 for it compared to paying nearly £2,000 if I went into a proper Burberry store. I probably wouldn't spend that amount of money on a Burberry trench coat when I could be using that for towards Anthony Sinclair suits, or which is kind of where I would stick the majority of my sort of funds if I had that sort of money to play with. But I'm happy with the quality of this, and for the price that I paid for this, I'm very, very happy. So why am I making a video about this? It's more of just a sort of a question, a query, something to put out. What brand, and I've done a few videos about future Bond brands. Now, I'm not entirely certain whether Burberry is a Bond brand or not, because it's only mentioned in the one Ian Fleming novel, and Bond has basically purchased his entire, so the outfit that he has purchased that I mentioned in the thing, they're all new items. They're not like he's gone to his home and picked up his old clothes. Everything he wore was brand new, and in fact the Burberry coat had the labels still within the coat before he set foot into M's office to try to assassinate him. So is Burberry a Bond brand, or is it just because he was told to go to Burberry, purchase a suit, purchase a tie, purchase an overcoat, but it has to be navy? There's the slightest possibility that we've seen a Burberry coat on Roger Moore in the 80s, where he's taken off his trench coat. But it's not been, I don't know if it's completely established if it is or not. And I don't recall seeing it. I think Burberry were used in Spectre for Max or C's outfits, his suits. I think they were Burberry. I'd have to go back and look into that. But what do we think for on Bond? I quite like the idea of him wearing a trench, especially around London. Depending on the time of year, London can be quite a wet place, so a trench coat would suit Bond. Even with a navy trench coat, that would work well for both his smart, suited, tailored attire, so that he doesn't get wet, but also for his casual clothes. So if he's out on a date, or if he's gone to a casual event or a dinner or something along that line, similar to sort of when he's in M's apartment at the beginning of Casino. He could wear a trench coat with an outfit similar to that, smart casual outfit. So I quite like the idea of Burberry being included. And I think if they've got the right tone of coat and, for his outfit, I think it would work really, really well. So I would very much like to see Burberry in a future Bond film. And I hope we do see that at some point when a Bond film becomes available. So more of a discussion around Burberry than actually about the coat itself. Let me just give you a quick show of the coat. So, like I said, although the ticket describes it as being a navy coat, it is more of a darker blue. What I would call like all the sort of major points of a trench coat, like you do up for cold. I like the collar; it just sort of sticks up quite well on its own if you need it to. It's not very thick. It's not very heavy, but it does keep the cold out when it's all done up, and it keeps you fairly dry. So it's a big win for me in terms of this find, the price that I paid for it. And you've probably seen it, probably ruffling the mic, apologies. You've probably seen me wearing it on my Instagram with my suits, with my casual clothes, where I've been sort of trying to work out what to wear for the day. But yeah, really like this coat. Would like to see Bond in something similar, I think. Thanks very much for your time today. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel. Everything helps in trying to boost the channel's popularity, so appreciate all the support, the comments, the feedback. Until next time.